The new SARS-CoV-2 virus, which causes the disease COVID-19, first arrived on Malaysian shores on 25th January 2020. A month later in February, case numbers inched up to 22 positive cases. By mid-March, case numbers had ballooned 24 to 428 cases. In response, Malaysia's authorities issued a two-week movement control order (MCO) on 18 March 2020. Businesses and services deemed to be non-essential were shut down. Interstate travel was curtailed. Public sporting, religious events, and gatherings were cancelled. At the time of writing and on 25th March 2020, a total of 1,796 positive cases have been identified. Of those, 199 have recovered, while 20 have passed away. Economic impacts of COVID-19. By now, it is clear that this pandemic will have intensely damaging effects on both the Malaysian's macroeconomy as well as on the economic welfare of the people. The main sources of economic damage in Malaysia are twofold. The first is the knock-on effect from the impacts of the coronavirus abroad. The second is generated domestically due to the newly imposed movement control measures. First, long before the partial lockdown measures in Malaysia, the outbreak of the new coronavirus in China had created wide-ranging supply and demand shocks that have reverberated across the globe. Commodity exporters around the world braved global prices as Chinese demand collapsed, while global manufacturers face production cuts as Chinese factories are locked down. In Malaysia, the effects of these China shocks may be dire. The Malaysian economy is amongst the most highly exposed economies in the region to both Chinese demand and supply. China is Malaysia's #1 trading partner, a large source of foreign investment, and is the top tourist source outside of Asia. Additionally, over the past decade, Malaysian firms have become amongst the most deeply integrated in the global production networks. This is compounded by the fact that regional supply chains have become increasingly China-centric. Indeed, more than a quarter of Malaysia-China trade, about $20 billion in 2019, is made out of intermediate components, exactly the kind of products that gets affected the most when global supply chains are disrupted. Second, the MCO measures. While absolutely essential in impeding the outbreak of the new coronavirus in Malaysia, will have devastating economic costs too. On a micro level, the closure of businesses and services, along with the travel and movement controls, will have outside impacts on private consumption and business investment. Its adverse effects on individual livelihoods and businesses will be even more pernicious. Individuals and businesses affected by the temporary closures will be at high risk of facing immediate cash flow constraints as their earnings dwindle. Critically, this liquidity squeeze will be disproportionately felt by small and medium enterprises (SMEs) and vulnerable groups such as lower-income individuals and part-time and unemployed workers. This can have knock-on effects on the entire economy, leaving businesses insolvent, individuals bankrupt, and the financial system saddled with economic policy response. Unlike the global financial crisis in 2008 and the Asian financial crisis in 1997, Malaysia's COVID-19 crisis is a public health crisis first and an economic crisis second. Following this, economists generally agree that economic policy should focus mainly on bolstering public health efforts in handling the pandemic whilst ensuring the welfare of the people and businesses. The 20 billion ringgit Malaysia stimulus package announced in February is a good start and already contains many of the measures proposed here. But in light of the recent developments and the severity of the crisis, there is a sense that the package can be much larger. Indeed, when the February stimulus package was announced, there were 23 confirmed cases of COVID-19. At time of writing, there are now 1,792 confirmed cases, 78-fold increase. For comparison, the stimulus package unveiled during the global financial crisis in 2008 and 2009 amounted to 67 billion, more than 3 times larger than the planned 20 billion. As such, many analysts note that there is an urgent need for a second add-on package, especially if movement controls are extended to strengthen and broaden many of the initiatives in the February stimulus package. Broadly, Malaysia's economic policy response to the coronavirus pandemic should comprise two separate stages. Stage 1 measures should be implemented when quarantine or partial lockdown measures are imposed to safeguard the income and liquidity of affected businesses and individuals. Stage 2 measures should comprise a hefty fiscal stimulus component and should be implemented as soon as the outbreak shows signs of subsiding and movement controls are lifted. Stage 1 measures safeguarding employment and livelihoods. Stage 1 measures should primarily involve supporting the welfare of the people through income and liquidity support. This will enable individuals and businesses to temporarily suspend work without adverse impacts on their ability to remain solvent. As much as possible, the goal should be to allow them to be able to pick up where they left off after the pandemic subsides. For individuals, Stage 1 measures should primarily aim to cushion the impact of the outbreak on the livelihoods of the people, particularly vulnerable groups such as the lower income and the unemployed, and part-time or GIT economy workers. On this, there is a need for an expansion or temporary extension of unemployment insurance, especially the job search allowance (JSA) component under Processus EIS mechanism. Under this expansion plan, individuals currently receiving EIS benefits should receive a temporary freeze in their maximum 6-month period benefit eligibility period for as long as the movement control measures are in place. Additionally, the JSA benefits amount should be supplemented by temporary special provision to increase the amount transparent, increasing the income replacement rates for unemployed recipients. This will enable the unemployed to weather cash flow shocks for longer while remaining ready to resume job search after the outbreak subsides. Lastly, broadening existing coverage of the EIS would also be hugely beneficial. Processus SIP Plus sinks 100 initiative, which relates eligibility conditions for the receipt of temporary benefits, is a commendable attempt at this. In normal times, the EIS is primarily funded by a tax on workers' paychecks, but in times of crisis, this proposed temporary extension and expansion of EIS benefits will need to be briefly funded by the federal government for as long as the pandemic remains as a national crisis. Stage 2 measures supercharging economic activity. Subsequently, once the pandemic has passed its peak and movement controls are lifted, Stage 2 measures need to kick in immediately. Stage 2 measures can complement Stage 1 measures by adding in an expansionary component with the primary aim of helping the businesses and individuals bounce back. Economic policy should now give gears to focus on boosting the economy via proactive fiscal stimulus. Stage 2 measures should encompass an expansion of the main proposals contained in the government's earlier 20 billion recognition plan fiscal stimulus package, including measures to increase infrastructure spending and broaden personal tax relief. In general, past experience suggests that successful fiscal stimulus should consist of a multi-pronged approach in one single package, from the immediate term to the longer term. For the immediate term, a simple one-time cash injection to every Malaysian, such as a fully refundable lump sum tax rebate, would put money in the hands of the people almost immediately, rapidly kickstarting aggregate demand. Research suggests that such cash injections work much quicker in getting money into the real economy compared to things like corporate tax cuts. For the medium and longer term, periods of crisis present good opportunities to increase productivity, improving expenditure, and invest in deepening social safety nets. Increasing infrastructure spending, especially in lagging regions as proposed in the February stimulus package, can have long-term effects on productivity and economic growth. Similarly, continuing to deepen social safety net and strengthen automatic stabilizers like the EIS will both incentivize human capital accumulation and ensure both the Malaysian economy and Malaysian workers are better prepared for future crises. Certainly, none of this will be easy. For starters, it will be costly. Government budget deficit targets will need to be overshot. Difficult decisions will need to be made later on how to boost tax revenues with progressive income and wealth taxes. These costs need not be borne by the middle or lower classes. Additionally, intense amounts of political determination will be required. As mentioned above, some policy responses may require the escalation or amendment of certain laws via a special or emergency parliamentary session. Lastly, there will be huge financial pressures on the banking sector, demanding action from our monetary policymakers. Besides, even with comprehensive and valiant efforts, and questioning the blow to the people and businesses, some amount of job losses and businesses closures will be unavoidable. Yet, the economic, social, and political cost of inaction, or even insufficient actions, is far greater and far more frightening. Surely, this is no time to be timid. In light of the emerging risks, it is clear that the fiscal policy needs to go further beyond the February stimulus package in safeguarding the livelihoods of the people. After all, the current COVID-19 cases will eventually be conquered through vigorous public health efforts, but without a sufficiently large and forceful fiscal response, the economic scars it leaves behind will be viciously long-lasting.